And here's Adi. So, greetings. We're going to, I guess, see how far and how fast we can go. We're going to be using rhobot to enter some rholang macros. And let's see what happened here. Robot testing. No, I don't know why. What happened here? This didn't work. I don't know why this wouldn't work. This is the example called fruit.row. And to type that into rhobot, we can do back quote to put in a block. Otherwise, the formatting gets screwed up if we don't put our code in a block. And we can say scale it to get some formatting. And then we give it the eval command. And the robot commands are all a word starting with a lowercase letter followed by a colon. And robot interprets these as commands. And the eval command executes the rholang that follows. And Owens made her locker. Sweet. Tony, Adi, follow her example. And we'll get into the locker in just a minute. But I'll just enter this rholang program, which creates the label standard out and links that to the log output, which is a special device powerbox function rho.io.standardout in back quotes. And that label standard out is going to be good in the context of these braces. So anywhere we use the name standard out in here, it refers to the log device. Now puts to the log.
And Jim, can you go over what that in before that first curly brace, what that signifies?
That means that the label set, the names that we define are valid in this block that follows.
Okay, so it creates a restriction. So they're only valid within that curly brace. Outside of that curly brace, it's not the case.
Right.
Okay.
And so I started the block with the back tick scala to get highlighting, and you end the block with the back tick with 3 back ticks. Okay, and then it should ship that code off to robot to the R node, and we get to the standard output. The pattern has matched and bananas. So And I should have really not used, okay, public name here, map test. Public names is a thing you can use to test the program, but in reality, you don't use them because anybody can step on your program. They can write the map test, they can read from map test, and that can screw up what you do. If somebody else writes the map test and you go to read it, you may get what somebody else wrote. So instead, we'll create a name called map test here, and then we can read a name called map test here. Rather than having the public name of the string map test, we have an unforgeable name, which is private and only available within these brackets. And this, of course, we get the same result. Oops, I forgot to scale up. Scale. Okay, so what I do is I write from the name. Basically you just have names that are channels that you can write to and you can read from. And this program writes to the channel map test, and then it reads from the channel map test. And if it reads from the channel map test, if the read from the map test channel matches a pattern of a map of B to some variable and a map of A to some variable with anything else, then it will write the value it gets for B to the standard out. And B in this case is bananas, and so it writes bananas to the standard out. Okay, and then we write the pattern has matched. But you'll notice that that this is the par operator. So this write and this write are both in parallel. So either one could come first. There's no ordering. And in this case, the pattern was matched came first, and then the value of X, which was bananas. I was just trying this example because this is what our Gary was doing in the channel. But I don't know if everybody got that. But we can see that in every case here, it's strange that it always got the pattern is matched first. And then it got bananas. Well, if we did it enough times, it would come out in the other order. Both of these things are done in parallel. Now, this write, the write to map test, and the write to map test here, and the read for map test here, are done in parallel, but they can only happen simultaneously. The write can only be done if there's a read, and the read can only be done if there's a write. And matching a read with the write is what they call a COM event in rholang. Now Gary's typing in the channel, and I don't know why he doesn't join the Zoom. Okay, did anyone, who else succeeded in, Adi succeeded in creating a locker here. And Owens. Tony, can you create a locker? Type make my locker colon. Steve already did that. And Owens did it. We need Tony and Gary. And Gary should be joining us any second. And here's Gary. Welcome. So we're going to go over some basic rholang. We went over a little bit the fruit.rho that you were experimenting with, Gary.
Yeah, and can I ask you a quick question about that?
Sure.
Notice your deployment cost on that is 717. If you scroll up the channel, you'll see that my cost was less on exactly the same code.
It's not exactly the same.
Oh, it's not?
Okay, you'll see I got less here, 642.
Oh.
Which I think is what you got. And this is using the public name, map test, in quotes, with an @ sign.
Yeah.
Okay, I was explaining that there's danger in doing that. There's if you run it and I run it, we've got the same map test. And you might get what I wrote, and I might get what you wrote.
Okay.
It's a global name, which there's been talk that they're not even going to support that. I mean, but
okay, that makes sense.
Okay, and this was done for the purpose of example, I guess. But I think it's sort of wrong to teach people to use public names since they may not even be supported, and it's a poor programming practice. So instead, I created a new unforgeable name called map test.
Okay, and I think I see where that would be more expensive.
Yeah, it's not much more expensive.
Right.
No more expensive.
But it accounts for the difference, and I was concerned about the difference. Let me ask you one more question. What are you doing when you paste that code into the channel to get the highlighting? I forgot what command you're entering.
Scala.
Yeah.
I tried that and it didn't do anything.
Okay, what you do to get a block is 3 ticks. You know that, right?
Well, maybe I think I had an uppercase Scala, so maybe I need to change it to all lowercase.
Right, and the Scala has to be right after the 3 ticks. It can't be.
Okay, and I may have even put a space in there. Okay, that explains that. Thanks.
Right, and that's pretty standard. That works on GitHub. It works in a number of places. It works in Mattermost also.
Okay.
So this is the standard way of making a block of code, because when we don't use the backticks, which I did here, notice the backticks here are gone, removed.
Yeah.
Okay, instead, the asterisk was used to, the backticks were used to make this a fixed font.
Gotcha.
So,
And that's right. I remember that now from Mattermost.
right. And the other thing is that, you know, it makes things between asterisks bold, and it takes out the asterisks. So if you copy and paste the code, it doesn't work.
Exactly.
Okay, I see Tony's typing. Hopefully he's going to do a make my locker. And Gary, do a make my locker.
Oh, yeah. Okay, we're in the what channel? The robot testing?
You need a colon at the end of make my locker. Commands and robot commands have a colon at the end. Gary got it. One more try, Tony. Where's Tony? Did try. Oh, they did it at the same time. Did they get mixed up here? I don't see Tony's output. Oh, he edited. Yeah, if you edit the line, it doesn't execute it again. Excellent. So let's look at the robot commands. I don't know if I have them pinned here. I don't have them pinned. Probably should pin them here. We go to the robot channel. Both of you typed it in there, but you edited it here also. Okay, so you made two lockers. Doesn't matter, Owens. It uses the last one you had, but it's a good idea not to type make my locker again, because it throws away everything you have in your locker. And if people may not be able to contact you properly without updating your directory entries to point to your new inbox, because when it makes a new data locker, which is a place where you can store private data. And in order to get stuff from your locker, you have to provide a signature. Now, Robot uses a really toy signature at this point, which is, Dan Connolly came up with just as a way to demonstrate this. And in these sessions going forward, one of the things we're going to do is beef up the security and use real signatures at some point before we actually use our procedures for voting, official voting in our chain. But the first thing I had to do was find the locker contract. And it did that by looking it up in the registry. The registry is a way that you can take a name, which is only good within the braces. And you can store it in the registry so that later, within some other braces, you can get that unforgeable name back and use it. Now, here Tony got a locker created, and it stored it in the registry with this name, which again is a special name in rholang, which stands for the ID of a channel or a name in the Archain registry. So this long name here is made by the insert arbitrary operation into the registry, which makes this unique name, which is just a way we can get back the name of the locker contract, of Tony's locker contract. And in order to serialize access to the locker and prevent the kind of thing that happens when the same command is executed twice, but what do you call that? The replay attack. Every time it uses a unique number. So it starts at 0, and then after the first access, it's 1, then it's 2, then it's 3, then it's 4. Okay, and these log entries that say define the locker Tony Prius of 13 to be this row ID actually define a macro. And if I show dollar locker Tony Prius 13. Whoops. Show colon, not quote.
There's a C in that name, last name, Jim.
Priesta. Okay, this shows me how we would define that. We could type the define command, locker Tony Priesa, and give it this value in back quotes, and it would do that definition for us. But that was defined automatically by this pattern in the standard output. And his nonce was defined as 1. Okay, and then we updated his locker with capabilities to access his mailbox. Inbox, which is what we send to, and a peek, which looks in the mailbox without removing stuff, and a receive, which removes things from the mailbox. And then we define inbox of Tony Preza as macro to make that public. So anybody can send to Tony Preza. I can do a chat colon Tony Preza 13. Hi, Tony. Inbox Tony Priestka 13 undefined or wrong number of arguments. What?
Hey, Jim. So I think above you have show $locker underscore Tony Briska 13 altogether. And then in chat, you have the underscore is in a different location.
Okay, so yeah, it's not lying, telling me that essentially there's no inbox with that name. Okay, so now Tony can do a receive colon or let's see, what do you do? Chat. I forget the easy way to do that. But if you, in any case, if you do a peak colon star std out, which is standard out, that will show us everything that's in our mailbox. And according to that, I've got nothing in my mailbox, which is probably true. You can try a peak colon star standard out, Tony. Chat. Jim Scarver. Find me. I don't have to do that. Thanks, Steve. And I can do another peak colon star std out. And I can see, well, as you can see, it increased my locker nonce to 3, which means the third time I accessed my locker. And I can see I found in there a chat from Steve Henley that said, "Hi, Jim," which of course is what he sent up here. Okay, so I just wanted to give you some.
Jim, when I did peak colon standard out, nothing happened.
Where is that?
Oh, I didn't put a space in there.
Right.
Syntax.
Well, yeah, I guess I didn't want to invoke a command anytime there was a colon in a line.
Yeah, gotcha.
Okay, any questions at this point? It looks like you have to try again, Gary. Wait a second. I don't see the scent. I wonder why I don't see the scent. See nothing. When Steve said chat Gary C, hi Gary, he did that at the same time that
No, I got it.
I wonder what happened to the sent message. Got lost.
Yeah, it must have confused robot there.
Yeah. Well, it does have problems with things happening at the same time. It assumes the output, it writes the output until it gets to a deployment cost, and then it stops the output. So if you have two things happening at the same time, the output can stop the first time it sees the completion of something.
So if is it listen?
What? I'm sorry? Yeah, no, there's no listen. What do you try? Oh, what do you try? What do you want to do?
I just want to see if anybody sent me any chat messages.
That's peak. Star.
Oh, it is? Okay, okay. I thought there was a special one or something. Okay.
I think there is. If we do a find chat, we'll find the chat commands. There is a read chat.
Read chat. Okay. Let me check. I want to see what that looks like. Oh, it looks exactly like a peak.
Yeah. Okay, type it again. Try it again. Gary, try it again.
Oh, yeah, I see what you're saying. Because I'll bet, yeah, excellent. That's the difference between peak and read chat, right?
Right. Well, the read chat, if you do a show read chat, whoops, show colon. We see that read chat is defined as a receive of chat with the output standard out.
Oh, okay, cool.
Okay, and if we look at show receive, I don't know why I always forget the colon. Whoa, that's a lot.
Yeah.
Okay, but basically what it does is it looks up the locker for my username, and my username gets supplied by rhobot depending on who typed the command. Um, and and it does a get of the locker, giving it the current locker nonce for the username, and gets back the items from your locker. And if the receive is nil, it says you do not have a receive channel for your inbox. Else, it does an items get of the receive channel, which gets back the unforgeable name that you stored there of your receive capability. And it puts in the type, which we pass to the function as chat above. And then it defines your locker nonce of your username, and the plus plus in rholang is concatenation of strings, or lists. I presume it works for maps also. And we didn't really go over the basic data types, so I want people to ask questions. This is supposed to be a basic lecture, and I'm trying to combine it with some reality of the environment that we're setting up for voting in Discord. Okay, and now macros are mainly a way that we can take pieces of rholang code and make them very simple. When we type a peak of standard out, we're really doing the same thing as doing an eval of dollar peak, given the argument star std out. So the macro peak can be used as a command, where the list of things after it are the same as the arguments to the macro. And you might ask why we have to tell it that we want to print the result. And that's because sometimes we don't want to print the result. We want to do something else with it. In which case, we need to give it a return channel and tell it where to send the result, what name to send the result to. And when we look at the peak, where that's what we look at, same as receive. Okay, we can see that it defined a dollar standard out, and dollar standard out is just a shortcut for oops. colon. Row IO standard out. Just a convenience macro to make it easier to type in these rholang programs. Who's confused? There's a lot to absorb here.
Yeah, that was good, Jim.
So, I'm really happy that we have a community. We've got 6 people now that have lockers. We actually can do voting.
There we go.
Of course, the voting programs haven't really been tested yet. And it looks like we don't even have a community set up yet. I don't even know if we have any community functions. And again, I forgot the colon. Oh, yes. We have community and we have add member. Well, our community, I presume, is just the name of the community contract. Doesn't really tell us how to create a community here. Oops. What did I do wrong? Oh, it's add member. We don't have that.
Get your colon in there.
Okay. So I define add member, given the community and given the user, to be create a new standard out, a new lookup, which is a dollar lookup is row registry lookup, a return channel, and a box channel, and an act. Create a lot of names here. And then I do a peek for the type community and the community name sent to a return channel. So I look in my inbox for a capability, a community capability for the community of the name. And then I look up the inbox of the user and return that in the box channel. And then before I read an admin capability, a read capability, a write capability, and a grant capability from the return channel. So what I expected to have in my inbox here is a bunch of capabilities, and uh, I don't have those in my inbox, so I can't. My inbox is empty or almost empty. May have a chat in it. Okay, and then I write the user okay. I read their inbox from the box channel, and then I write the box to that channel. I make a grant capability for that user to update their entry in the community and get the return channel. And then I read a self-modification channel from that return channel. And then I send to the user um, a member type for the community with the read capability and the self-modification capability. That was a mouthful. But in any case, I don't have a create community macro that I can find here. So I'm going to go back in the history, and this is one very valuable thing about things here is is a history of what we've done, and there should be some rholang code here that creates a community. How do we check in a channel? In robot testing, we can look for oops. Well, I don't find anything here. It's funny that there would be an add member, but there's no add community. Creating community. That looks promising. Okay, well, this is when I created this is when I defined the contract for community. And let's look at the, in the robot.net machine from the ArtChain account that we share, and change directory to robot, and I vi community.ro. Now, actually, Vim has true rholang syntax highlighting, which is better than NVim, new Vim, which is better than the Scala syntax highlighting that we get normally. But NVim, I don't use when I'm editing really much because I'm so used to Vim that I make mistakes when I do this. Okay, so here we create the name community. We have a community map, which is a map of all the communities that we create. We have the standard out. We have the registry lookup and the registry insert arbitrary, which allows us to put names in the registry. And then I have /* here, which actually comments out this section of code. Since I really don't want to do this until I'm really sure that the changes I made are correct, then I uncomment this. But this stores in the registry the name that I just created with the new for community. And then it writes to the log, pound define community, which would give a new value for $community, which I don't really want to do. This is the value of the community contract. I don't want to create a new community contract because then I'll sort of forget all the communities that I already created. Okay, Tony. So, so I put the, so that we can find the community contract later, I'm going to store that in the registry. And then I'm going to define some contracts for community. And the saying if the name community receives the string new NEW followed by some name and some inbox and some return channel, whatever they're called, then I'm going to create a new admin capability. Methods, I don't think I used methods. Right. Oh yeah, I do. Well, I store nothing in the methods, and then I never use them. I guess my intention was to store methods here that you can call by name, but I didn't support that. Okay, and then I have a user list and an info channel and a return channel. Okay, so these are things that are going to be associated with each new community that we create. It's going to make new names for that new community. Okay, so so we can eval you make a new community. And then we can use the shortcut for the registry, do $1 lookup. You look up in the registry. And we probably need a return channel for something. And we need this in some thing here. And we want to, well, I'll space this. We want to send to the $1 lookup. Oh, it's not $1 anymore. Just lookup. $1 lookup defines the name lookup. Lookup being the row, registry, lookup. So we're going to look up and what we're going to look up is we write to the lookup well, we want to write this URI, which is $1 community. So we can find the community contract. And we're going to return that. And I think we keep losing Tony, unfortunately. He's had some problems with this connection. And we send processes, and ret is a name. So we have to use a star to make it a process. And par with that, okay, so we don't need to make a new community here because we're going to make a for statement here, which is going to bind the name community to the return channel. Okay, now we have this binds the name community here to the unforgeable name that we looked up from the registry. Please interrupt. And I don't know why I have, that looks like a capital F there. Probably not work. Okay, so now we can call the community contract, or we can write to the community contract name, the pattern, new, and we'll make a new collab community, and we'll give it a return channel. Okay, and that matches, oops, forgot the inbox. Aha. So we also need my inbox. Wait, why do we need an inbox here? It needs an inbox to know where to send the capabilities. In other words, in order for someone to be an admin, in order for someone to have an admin capabilities, we have to send that admin capability to somebody's mailbox. So we don't know anybody's mailbox here. In parallel with looking up the community here, we can look up a mailbox. Well, actually, yeah. $3 inbox underscore Jim Scarborough. Okay, that was defined when we did a Make My Locker. When I did a Make My Locker, it defined my inbox. Okay, now I have a little bit of a problem. I can't use the same return channel. So I'm just going to call it ret1. Since we reuse these rets, rather than give them a name specific, I often just call them return. I could have called it URI channel and inbox channel. But then if I use them later in the code, I would need more names. And I don't want to make more names, they cost more. ret1. Okay, now before I proceed here, I need two things, not just community, I also need the inbox. So I'm going to read ret, and I do a join here with a semicolon. And I'm going to say inbox is ret1. So now this is going to wait until it gets both the community and the inbox back from the registry. And then it's going to make a community new called collab with this inbox, and that use we use return channel. Okay, and that matches this contract. So this code is going to be executed. Who do we lose now? Oh, I guess Audie signed off. Okay. And Tony got dropped again. So I don't know what happened to Rick today. I thought he was going to join. But we're almost finished here with getting something done. So let's continue here. Um, uh, uh, so if we look at the example below here, we can see that when we did a new here, we did a for admin read, write, and grant from the return channel. So when we create the new create channel, we're going to get all these capabilities back. And when we get all these capabilities, well, it's not clear to me we actually need all these separate capabilities at this point. We can just say here, since we're not going to use these capabilities individually, we can just say we're getting back capabilities. Okay, and now we want to send those capabilities to an inbox. And we could do that with inbox, right? We could have actually taken a shortcut here. We could have done $send, but we already have the inbox. Oh, wait, do we have to do that? Why does this take an inbox? What does it do with the inbox? So we make a new in that receives an inbox. I see. That's the inbox where you request membership to the community. People send requests to that inbox. So if you want to join the Colab community, you would do a request. And that would find the request inbox and it would send a community request. Ooh, that doesn't look good. Community request. I think I got that backwards. I think it should be a request community. Because the community type is for admin capabilities. So I think that needs to be fixed. But I'll continue with this in any case since we're running out of time and I wanted to complete this. So I'm going to make the request inbox be Gary C. And then I'm going to take a shortcut here and do a send, not capital, $1 send to Jim Scarver. Community collab capabilities. And that should be a comma. And it needs to be a process. So I need star capabilities. And then we have the end of the for, the end of the for, and the end of the end. End of the for. Whoops, I don't know what that was. Whoops. So let's see. 1 brace, 2 brace, 3 braces. 1 brace, 2 brace, 3 braces. Looks like I got an error here. I'm missing a quote. And the $1 send is just a shortcut for looking up my inbox and sending me the type community, the name collab, the set of capabilities that were created when we destroyed, when we set it. Name variable rep1 in the process context. Well, 375. Name variable in a process context. Fine. How could I have? I don't have 75 characters. Name variable ret1 defined at 42. Oh, yeah, this should be star ret1. Now, how that configure that's character 75 doesn't make any sense. And now we try that. Name variable inbox. Oh my. We always send processes, not names. And once again, I could also call this the name of process inbox. And then I don't need the star down here. Six of one, half a dozen of the other. Well, that's interesting. It didn't say anything. Got no output. That's not a good sign. Needs to add some debugging to that to see why not. And then I can take this and I can make Gary C be a dollar request to inbox. And we can have a new community which takes an inbox as an argument. And the name as an argument. So you can make a community called our chain. You say who's the authority? You know, who do you have to request admittance from? And then you can, and then it would use my username here, the dollar in my username. So whoever created the community would own it. They would get the rights to it. And of course, whoever was made the gatekeeper, and we could always make it be the same person, because once you get these permissions, you can you can share them, or you could have a shared. In this case, you could have a shared mailbox that multiple people could access in order to service member requests. But initially, we'll make Gary verify all the members. It would be good to, actually for the collab, it would be good if they didn't have to request membership, but for our training, we'll need to verify that they are actually co-op members to allow them to vote. Okay, so I may debug this and define the macro to add community. So add community will be a simple command. I was sure I had done that before, but apparently not. And something went wrong here. No, we didn't get any output. Then when we did a community new, what? We should have at least seen creating community. Okay, we would either see error, community with that name already exists, or we would see the message creating community. Now we didn't see either of those here. Which means that this call, it looks like this call did not match this pattern. 1, 2, 3, 4 arguments. 1, 2, 3, 4 arguments. First one is new. Well, it looks like it certainly did match. To be continued.
Okay, thanks, Jim.
Okay, no questions?
Well, I'm wondering how much I'm going to need to know about this as far as a rholang programmer. I'm not really, am I?
Well, I think that, what main thing you learn with this is how to share permission capabilities. You learn about the capability model and how we share capabilities.
Yeah, I agree. That is important.
Okay, and I think the liquid democracy application is pretty interesting, and it's reasonably simple. I don't know, does this seem very complex to you?
Oh, no, I'm more or less following what you're doing. Sometimes I get lost a little bit on the steps, but
Yeah, I think you know the basics well enough to understand basically what I'm doing here. You just kind of drill drills in some of the ideas when you go over it. You know, like reminding you that you have to write a channel first before you can read it. You have to put, you have to use that cell pattern where you store something in there, and then when you read it, you always have to put it back.
Yeah.
So little patterns like that get reinforced as you go through these examples.
So this would be for anybody who accesses rhobot through a channel, right?
Yeah, right now it's global. Ideally, we would want to have separate ballots for separate channels.
Ideally, everybody would run their own instance of rhobot.
Oh yeah, that's that too. Okay, for a while we're going to have a trusted robot. And I guess it should be secured. But I think that's good enough for voting. Now, when it comes to financial transactions, then everybody would want their own robot.
Yeah.
And that's a little bit of a pain in the butt, but not could be automated to a large extent through the APIs. But they would have to create a robot, a bot on Discord, and they would have to create an instance of the robot code that listened to them specifically and responded to them specifically. Well,
so this,
well, actually, it could be a shared robot locally, and, for the community anyway. But they would still need their own process that they control to sign their messages. Okay.
yeah.
They couldn't trust.
A man in the middle attack.
Yeah, I mean, if we set up voting, and we say, here's the code. Okay, do you trust it? To sign your messages. You say, okay, for the purpose of voting, I'll trust it. But to trust it for financial transactions is something else.
Yeah, exactly.
So you wouldn't need the whole robot necessarily, just the signer would have to be under your control.
So my mailbox in the it's in the directory.
Well, your mailbox right now is just defined in a macro. Okay, that's not ideal. Okay, what I'm doing, which is more secure, is I'm storing your mailbox in your um, um, where's the add member? Look up. Um, the add user. Okay, at that point, I'm storing the user's inbox in the directory. So I store for their username in the directory map, I store their inbox and their delegate. Okay, so that we don't have to trust the value of a macro, to, which is a global macro. Somebody could, in essence, steal your vote. We don't want that to happen. So little by little, this is, we're making it more secure.
Yeah.
In other words, when you vote, this is set at the time you're added to the community. And you have a self-update permission, so you can change that yourself if you want.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I got to run. This is good. I'm slowly coming around, getting back to speed with rholang and the interpreter just a little bit. I don't know why I can't get CryptFX to run though.
Well, what I found is that if I put this in to a new file, it works.
Well, I tried that one, that the fruit.rho, and I tried it on CryptFX, and here it is right here.
Where is it? Fruit.rho, where'd it go?
Have I been on mute all this time?
No.
Okay. But anyway, there it is when I run it.
Oh, are you sharing now?
Yeah, I'm sharing. Do you see it?
Fruit.rho. Isn't that something?
And I've got this set on rholang. But if I try anything else,
Well, that won't work.
but none of those will work.
Yeah, interesting. I wonder if you have a different version than I have. I just downloaded this, I thought. Now, if you look at my version,
Yeah. I'll stop sharing.
you see I have all this stuff here.
Go up to help and see if it'll show you the version number on it. I can't find a way to find out what version number I'm running. Probably at the command line, but
Huh.
But you're right. Yours looks different than mine.
Yeah. You know, and I mean, I thought this was a new version. I downloaded it a couple of weeks ago. And the one I had no problem running the built-in ones on a previous version.
Well, I've had them running before myself. I don't know what has changed.
So you right-clicked and did a new file,
Yeah,
and you gave the name .row.
yeah. Rholang code editor. Are there any other options you've got set on there anywhere, like that I can't see? Like up,
Well, we do have
oh,
the cryptofx.json.
maybe that's it. Let me look at mine.
Localhost 40401. The internal URI.
Oh, that's different. I've got different here. So you got, I need to look at yours again. 441 and, wait, that's all different. 441. Look at mine. Tell me right quick if you can see what's different about them.
You're going to share your screen now. Where is it?
See, mine's not near as long as yours. Oh, wait, that's the wrong file. No, that's the right file. Cryptofx.json.
All right. Yeah, 40404.
But you've got some other stuff in yours too that I don't have.
I have Ethereum configuration.
Oh, okay. Well, that doesn't matter, does it? Okay, so I'll just change it to what? 401?
Mine has 40401.
40401. And what down there?
For the internal URI. External doesn't matter. You're not going to use that.
Okay.
I have robot.net set up,
So I'll save that.
which
Do I have to restart it?
I don't think you need to.
Oh, okay. Well, I restarted it.
Did you save it?
Yeah, I did. Okay, that took. Now I want to see.
Isn't that something? But you're definitely running a different version than me.
And I don't understand
And when did you install this?
today. I mean, the version I had wasn't running, but how do you go to CryptFX and find their download? Let's see, look here. Whoops. No. Yeah, so there's the site, right?
Yeah.
And so there's download CryptFX. That link doesn't work for me for some reason.
It doesn't work? That link doesn't work?
No, it doesn't work for me. So I go to this.
You put in your name.
Oh. Well, I've done this so many times that I didn't. I think that other link I was using was an old version. No, that's the same version, 3.6. And I can do it again. Save.
Yep, that's what I did. Interesting.
It's so weird. I don't know. I don't know if there's a setting I'm not seeing or. Anyway, I'll play with it.
Okay, guys, thanks for joining today. It helps to have someone else around to help guide and learn. And I think I'm not a very good teacher, and
No, you're better than I am, but
we can help each other.
yeah, yeah. How are you getting so many people to come out these days? It's really good turnout for these rholang sessions. Is this one?
Pretty good. Unfortunately, I wish that that Rich came today. That was who I planned to come. And Tony, I really don't know what his level is.
I think Tony's a she.
But I guess she did say she's been through some tutorials, but she has trouble with her connection, and so she's she's not participating much.
Gotcha.
And Audie's been very quiet too. I don't know. I think he's maybe not that interested in rholang. I'm not sure.
Well, my interest at the coding level waxes and wanes. Something about what Greg did today in the Casper lab has got me interested in coding again. I don't know what, but I think he's onto something pretty interesting right now. I'm not sure I understand all the implications of what he's doing today, but it sure does seem interesting. I feel like I would appreciate it more if I was an evolutionary biologist or a biochemist or something like that. But anyway, this has been fun. I'll see you soon.
All right, Gary. Thanks again. Bye-bye.